Okay, so I do weekly videos called In the Line of Duty that focuses on police officers that are either killed or injured in the line of duty. And I thought I'd do one in the reverse of the officers or people that are killed or injured in the presence of officers. They're called officer-involved shootings, officer-involved incidents. And as of today, there have been 839 people killed in the presence of a police officer this year, and an additional 492 suspects that were injured in the presence of a police officer. And I say in the presence of a police officer because when they call it officer-involved incidents, if the person dies with the police even there, it's considered an officer-involved incident. So the 839 number sounds like a big number, but oftentimes it's the person takes their own life. And if this is something that you're interested in, seeing this side of it, and not just the side of it of when the police are being the ones being the victims, hit that like button and leave a comment in the comments and let me know that this is something you're interested in. And we're going to start in Minneapolis, Minnesota with our suspect Ricky Cobb II. He's 33-year-old male, and he was killed. And let's see what we got here. He is the latest black motorist killed by law enforcement in the Twin Cities following high-profile incidents dating back several years. Okay, this one sounds like it's going to be interesting. A Minnesota state trooper shot and killed a black motorist early Monday morning after he fled a routine traffic stop on Interstate 94. Although authorities have not named the motorist, family members identified him as 33-year-old Ricky Cobb II of Spring Lake Park. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner also confirmed that Cobb died. The State Patrol said the shooting was captured on body camera and squad car dash cam footage and promised to release it soon. Cobb is the latest black motorist killed by law enforcement in the Twin Cities following a high-profile incident dating back several years that drew intense protest, including the shooting deaths of Philando Castile in Falcon Heights and Dante Wright in Brooklyn Center. That Dante Wright one, I think that lady, the cop that shot him, I think she just got out of jail. On Monday night, more than 100 people gathered with Cobb's family and friends to remember him. All right, let's get to where the story is. Okay, here we go. On Monday afternoon, the State Patrol issued a statement outlining its version of events that led to the fatal shooting on westbound I-94. According to the statement, state troopers spotted a Ford Fusion with no taillights traveling north near Lowry Avenue just after 1:50 a.m. and pulled the driver over. During the stop, troopers learned that the motorist was wanted by law enforcement in Ramsey County in connection with a felony-level violation. As the troopers worked to detain the driver refused to exit the vehicle. Troopers were attempting to remove the driver from the vehicle when the driver drove away. At some point, a trooper fired at the motorist. 3 troopers have since been placed on standard administrative leave. They have yet to be named. It's not immediately clear how many troopers fired their weapon or exactly what triggered the use of deadly force. Cobb was wanted for questioning in relation to an alleged violation of a standing domestic order for protection. Okay, so this one, actually there's not a lot on this one, and this one actually might look a little iffy. There's been a lot of stuff that have come out lately on the police officers in Minneapolis. And I don't know how much of it is true and how much of it is hyped up for, news purposes to make the cops look bad. But this story, if you're shooting at the cop as the guy's driving away, again, that goes, I don't know about this one. We'll have to see what happens with this one. All right, let's move on to Boise, Idaho, where our suspect, the male was killed. And let's see, all of these, the person is going to be killed. A man was killed by police Thursday morning after police say he charged towards them with weapons. It happened in an apartment complex. Just before 11 a.m., officers were alerted to an incident at the 1100 block of South Dale Street, making contact with a man in his 50s. After coming outside, police say the man produced weapons, at least one with a sharp edge, visible to officers, and refused commands requesting he drop the weapons. Officers say he then aggressively charged the officers, resulting in 2 officers discharging their weapons. The suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators believe the suspect was a person who had originally contacted police to come to the address. The officers involved have been placed on administrative leave. This is the most recent of 6 officer-involved shootings in Boise so far this year. Okay, so this guy, the police believe this guy called the police basically on himself. And then he walked outside with a bunch of weapons, and then when they didn't fire on him, he charged at them until they did fire at him. And we can all make an assumption as to what that is, but it sounds like, he may have wanted to be shot by the police. And that's why he called them. So let's go to Hartford, Alabama, where our suspect is 35-year-old Andrew David Massey. And again, this guy was killed. The victim in an officer-involved shooting in Geneva County has died. Coroner identified him as 35-year-old Andrew David Massey of Hartford. According to the sheriff, deputies rushed to a home on County Road 45 outside of Hartford Thursday afternoon after receiving reports of a naked man, Massey, shooting out windows in his father's home. Helms says Massey came outside the home with a gun and was ultimately shot by deputies. The details of the shooting are currently unknown. Massey was transported to the Southeast Health, where he later succumbed to his injuries. So this guy got shot by the police, but if he was outside a home without any clothes on and shooting into his father's house, the guy clearly was going through some sort of mental break, and it doesn't really say what he did to the police that made him, other than he came out with a gun and was ultimately shot by the deputies. But if he was definitely going through something if he's standing outside shooting at the house without any clothes on. All right, let's go to Chicago, Illinois, where our victim is a 22-year-old male, and he was injured, and a law enforcement officer was unharmed, and our suspect is a 25-year-old man, and he was killed. A 25-year-old gunman was shot and killed by a Walgreens security guard following an altercation in South Shore Thursday evening. According to the Chicago Police Department, officers responded to a shooting near the intersection of 71st Street and Jeffrey in the South Shore neighborhood at 2:50 p.m. Witnesses said the incident started with 2 men on the sidewalk. One of the men was selling some sort of merchandise before a fight broke out. The 25-year-old man pulled out a gun and shot the 22-year-old man. A security guard from the Walgreens nearby came out and fired shots at the 25-year-old gunman. The 22-year-old was transported to the hospital in critical condition. The 25-year-old was transported to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. The Walgreens security guard reportedly is a part-time police officer at the Cook County Hospital, according to Chicago PD. So these guys happen to be doing something on the street in front of a Walgreens that has an armed security guard inside. And the guy that shot the other guy ends up getting shot by the security guard and ends up dying. And that happens a lot with these security guards because they're all armed, and especially in some of these neighborhoods, they don't always hire. They sometimes hire people that just want to get paid to stand there with a gun. And we'll just leave it at that. Indianapolis, Indiana. We have an adult male suspect that was killed. Man killed during a chase. Okay, IMPD, Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, I'm assuming, is investigating a deadly officer-involved shooting that happened on the city's northeast side. Police said an officer tried to stop a car for reckless driving around 9:40 a.m. They claim the driver, 49-year-old Gary Dwayne Harrell, got out of the car, then got back in before getting out again and running. The officer chased after Harrell and said Harrell had a gun in his hand. During the chase, an officer fired shots, with Harrell being hit at least once. IMPD claims officers began life-saving treatment. He was taken to the hospital in critical condition and later died. IMPD said officers found a gun near Harrell and would only say it did not belong to IMPD or the officer that fired the shot. Police confirmed no officers were injured or anyone else other than the suspect. The officer who fired the shot has had his body cam video recording, which will be used as part of the investigation into the shooting. So that's kind of good that this guy had the body cam on, because without that, I mean, it sounds like the guy was running away when he shot him. And it doesn't sound like the guy that was running away was shooting back. So some of these, it's hard to tell if without the body cam footage, you know, if the police were in the right or not on some of these incidents. So let's go to Osceola, Wisconsin, where we have an adult male who was killed. And police say a man is dead after a standoff that lasted multiple hours in Osceola. According to the Osceola Police Department, officers arrived at a home in the 900 block of Marty's Way at around 10:15 a.m. to investigate a felony domestic abuse incident. An adult male was contacted at the door of the home, and after a brief interaction with police, the man fled inside. Officers pursued to arrest the man, but heard what appeared to be gunfire from inside the home and held their position until other agencies arrived for help. The police department says after several hours of failed negotiations, the man was found dead inside the home with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. So they were coming to this guy's house just to ask questions about a felony domestic abuse incident, and the guy goes inside and takes his own life. So that's often what happens. And these go down as officer-involved shootings, because the shooting happened in the presence of an officer, but no officer fired a shot. Okay, let's go to Thomasville, Georgia, where we have a 19-year-old suspect who was killed, Alfred Shantez Cole. And this is like a police report. Agents with the Thomas County Drug Squad were in the area of Meadow Street in Thomas County, Georgia, earlier in the afternoon on August 2nd, looking for another man wanted on active warrants for failure to appear. While searching for the other man, agents received a bolo from another deputy who observed a beige Toyota Camry driving erratically. The two agents saw the car described in the bolo in the area they were in and attempted to initiate a traffic stop. The driver of the Camry, later identified as Alfred Cole, then sped up and attempted to get away. A short chase ensued, and the two vehicles ended up in an area off Meadow Street, with the Camry finally coming to a stop near the woods. Cole got out of the Camry, and during the incident, Cole pulled out a semi-automatic handgun. Two agents fired their weapons, hitting Cole. The agents were not injured during the shooting and immediately began rendering first aid to Cole in the scene. Cole was taken to a local hospital where he died. Cole's gun was recovered at the scene, previously reported by a law enforcement agency. Okay, so this one's kind of like the other ones. You don't get the full story of all this, because either the police aren't releasing it or the news. Well, this was actually a police report. So this is a report that the police released. So this came directly from the police, but that's all they didn't say like what the guy was doing with the gun, other than he got out with the gun. But you can see most of these, actually all of these we did, that the police shot at somebody. It was because either somebody was coming at them, like the one with that came at him with, they had sharp metal objects in their hands, or ones with guns in their hands. And some of them may be a little suspect, and seeing the body cam footage would be helpful. But in all of these, none of the people were unarmed. Everybody was armed with something. And then we had the one that took his own life. So I don't know if these are interesting or not. I said in my last line of duty video that they always talk about the incidents where the cops are the ones doing the shooting and killing the victims, or killing the suspects or whatever. And I was saying in that we should hear both sides. And I was thinking about that, like, well, I'm only telling the stories of the cops that are getting shot, so I thought, or getting killed. And I thought maybe I should try seeing the other side and seeing some of these other stories. I don't know. If you find these interesting, I'll continue to do these along with the In the Line of Duty videos, because there is some value to hearing this. There is some value to seeing what the cops go through, again, just from this perspective, that forces them to have to shoot somebody. Because I guarantee you, most of the cops anyway, aren't going out there wanting to shoot somebody. That's not the goal of what they're doing. And sometimes they're just forced to do it. And So maybe these stories will be interesting to you, but leave a like or leave a comment or both in the comment section and let me know if these are interesting at all, and I'll continue to do them. Maybe I'll continue to do them for 2 or 3 weeks anyway, and we'll just see, maybe the stories will start getting a little more interesting. But I think it's good to see both sides, or why the cops are shooting people, and seeing, cops that are being injured just because they ended up going to work and, ended up in a bad situation. All right, so I'll catch you on the next one.